Victor Gao? Is it true that America doesn't need the Strait of Hormuz at all?
Any trust any person could have in him as a person, as a leader, as the president of the United States of America, as the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military forces. That is the sad nature of the situation President Trump has brought the United States to. Now, if there is a winner for this war, there is a winner in Netanyahu. The moment the war started, Prime Minister Netanyahu succeeded in pulling the United States, pushing the United States into this war. I don't think President Trump has any idea as to what exactly he wanted to achieve. He wanted to have an unconditional surrender of Iran before the war even started. But that is a goal he can never realistically achieve, because Iran will fight to its death, and they will not give up. Why? Because if they give up this round, they will lose the 6,000 years of continuous civilization of Iran or Persia. So I think this war is bringing the world the closest to a nuclear war, and possibly to the Third World War. So all of us, mankind as a whole, should pause to think about what exactly is going to happen. Because if President Trump escalates, he will not achieve whatever goal he will set for the United States, because it will only push the crisis of energy crisis, financial crisis, and economic crisis to the real breaking moment. And Israel eventually will be a loser, because right now, all this Iron Dome, the David Sling, all the other anti-air defense systems have been completely broken. And they are exposed.
Israel will not want Victor Gao.
From
I just
Iran.
got some breaking news.
We
were
talking
reporting
about existential threats.
Yeah, we were reporting
to
this.
Israel on the one hand, to Iran on the other hand,
Yeah.
and to the prestige and the image of the United States as a superpower on the other hand.
I just
so
think
the longer it draws on, the more the closer it will push mankind to the brink of the Third World War and to a nuclear war.
So you know, I'm beginning to suspect that Israel will do everything possible to make the war continue. Because if the war were to end today and America were to pull out, it would have huge political consequences on Netanyahu. Russia today reporting sometime back, Hamid Raza, that Israel has killed the man who was the main negotiator who was trying to get talks done at a higher level with J.D. Vance. His name is Kharazi. He was a former foreign minister. And Israel, in a targeted strike, has gravely wounded him. Some reports are that he has died. Is this true? Have you heard any such news in Tehran as well about Mr. Kharazi?
The attack is confirmed, and his wife, unfortunately, has been martyred. But himself has sustained some injuries. My reports and my hearing is that he has survived the assassination attempt. However, I don't think that it was let's say, serious negotiations in place. Based on his background as the former Prime Minister of Iran, during which Iran had good relations with Pakistan, he was actively actually engaged with Pakistan at that time. He has made some connections, apparently, with Pakistan to have the talks, to actually deliver the messages between Pakistan and Foreign Minister, the Supreme Leader, and the Supreme National Security Council. But we cannot consider it a serious negotiation because the other end of the story, it has not been serious. Neither the position that Pakistan was following, nor the statement that China and Pakistan jointly issued, nor the other side of the story, which is in the United States or Israel, are serious in any ceasefire or something like that. So we can say he was not that important in this procedure. However, as part of giving room to any opportunity, he was one of the figures who could be actually considered in between, and he was helping the way he could.
Okay.
So, yes, please.
Yeah, no, my point is, as of now, Sierra, what do you see as Trump's next move?
Well, to go back to what you mentioned about our European partners, just a quick note, NATO and the European defense apparatus was in decline long before Trump came in office. I actually did my graduate research paper on that, so I know about the history of that. And in terms of, what President Trump is doing for America, I think the missile that almost made it all the way to Diego Garcia, showing how far their range has was actually getting to. That's what Trump did for America. And if the Europeans are upset by that, that's just simply a consequence of what happens when we are protecting our homeland from Iran building missiles that could reach her. What is his next move? I think his next move is to pursue these negotiations and while continuing to put maximum military pressure on Iran. I know some people on the panel are less hopeful about the negotiations, but I think that with Israel and the United States, who are working in tandem, Israel's putting pressure on the regime points. They're going after regime apparatus, their ability to suppress the people, their morale basically, and the United States is going after the military ability of Iran to project power outside of its borders. With both of those things being as decimated as they are,
this is an American report card, Sierra. How are you taking what Trump says at face value? Trump is talking through his hat when he says that Iran's ability to launch missiles and drones is curtailed. I mean, it's not true. It's not true. You cannot lap it up at face value. A British Maritime Security Agency said their vessel was struck off Qatar. In Lebanon, the Hezbollah said its fighters launched drones and rockets in northern Israel as recently as 2nd of April. Today, with Israel military's home front demands saying air raid sirens are activated across the border. It's not true. This Trump propaganda is not true. The IRGC have confirmed hitting an oil tanker in the Gulf, which belongs to Israel. So these doubts about Iran's military or missile capacity being dramatically curtailed is not true. If it was true, there would be no counterattack by the Iranians. Sierra, you are a geopolitical expert. How do you take this at face value?
I don't think that saying that Iran can launch one missile, it means that we haven't decimated them. The points from the Department of War show their capability, their actual missile launches have decreased by 80%, 90% since the war started. And we still have 2 to 3 weeks to go, as President Trump said. So, there's more work to be done. But that was his point. One of his points in his speech last night is that we are really very close to achieving these military objectives because Iran is so decimated. So I think there's a confusion, that people want to say, oh, because Iran is still retaliating, that means that the U.S. wasn't successful. The U.S. decimating them to where their missile launches have decreased by 90% is success in military terms.
Well, that is now, comparative data. Hamid Raza is smiling at it. I find it so defensive of Pete Hegseth to have to come and justify and say, oh, you know what, I'm not totally losing. You see, they're firing fewer missiles at me now. They used to fire more missiles at me earlier. What kind of a victory is that? Come on, Sierra.
I think that's how war works. There are.
How does it work like that? Maybe Iran is just holding its fire for a while.
Well, I think that the U.S. has very good intelligence in terms of Iran's weapons caches. And, that is part of what Trump also mentioned in his speech last night, is we're clearing all of that out. We're actually going after their factories, their ability to produce weapons to protect
the basic argument Pete Hegseth and Trump is making, therefore, General Bakshi, is that the Iranians aren't hitting us as badly as they used to earlier. They were hitting us very badly earlier. And now they've slowed down a bit. They fired 31 missiles on March 26th. Thank God they're firing only 21 missiles now. Does that sound like a victory? It sounds like America heaving a huge Huge Sierra sigh of relief. Maybe the Iranians are sparing us now. Seems to be the argument that is put out here. I don't know how that is a victory. I don't know how that is a victory at all.
Arnab, can I come in?
Yeah, please, go for it.
Arnab, can I come in? Arnab, the rate of fire, let me give it to you. 490 missiles on the first day barrage, which is always the heaviest barrage. Thereafter, they have tapered it down to 30 to 60 missiles per day. But the bad news is for the Israelis and the Americans, these are the hypersonic missiles, the latest Fateh 2s, Khorramshahr 4s, which are bloody accurate and very deadly. And all of them are coming through. They fired in massive barrages earlier to make Israel and the United States expend their interceptor missiles. Most of them, you have to fire 2 interceptor missiles for every 1 missile and drone that you fired. The drones that they fired are 2,000 upwards, 2,000 in the first day and then tapering down, but still anywhere between 1,000 to 500 drones a day. And for every single drone that is fired, you have to fire 2 interceptor missiles worth $1 million, at least $1 million to $3 million each, depending on which missile they are using, right? The Iranian drones cost them about $20,000 to $50,000. You see the exchange ratio. Every day that this war goes on, you are losing the attrition battle forthright, absolutely hands down. And the missiles are now being guided by not the GPS, which the Americans could spoof earlier, could jam earlier. It is being guided by the Bidyao Chinese satellites, 3 of them mid-altitude, 1 in low Earth orbit, which retransmits the signal. It is so strong that it cannot be suppressed by electronic warfare. You know, their accuracies are of 1 meter within the target. And they have hit crucial targets like Haifa in Iran, they have hit Tel Aviv, they have hit Dimona, they have hit the American air bases, knocked out AWACS, knocked out KC-135 refuelers on the ground. They have knocked out all the major radars. The 1.1 billion.
But Israel does not want this to end, General Bakshi.
Over the horizon.
But General Bakshi, Israel wants to push it. Will Israel be allowed to push it? Saurabh, you know, Israel will.
There are domestic.
Can you imagine what things will be like for Israel if America pulls out of this in 2 weeks without a regime change, with Iran looking strategically stronger? What will it mean for Netanyahu?
You're absolutely right that while Mr. Netanyahu may want this war to continue, there is less and less appetite in the US for this war to be prolonged. Even, as I said earlier, even President Trump's closest advisors who now believe that America has to finish this, and that's the reason why one of the sources told me that they specifically wanted a mention in the speech yesterday that you will see the war ending in 2 to 3 weeks. But as we have been seeing on the show, and as I've seen the way Trump orbit and the Trump whisperers works, sometimes it changes. That's the reason why, despite my optimism earlier, I still see this as a phase of volatility till the time you actually see declaration coming out that the war is ending.
But there is a report that Oman and Iran will come to some agreement over handling Hormuz. Can that happen? Victor Gao, could that be a way out? Co-monitoring of Hormuz between Oman and Iran?
Well, the best way to end the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is for the United States and Israel to stop the war right away. That's the most effective way, and that will lift all the pressure on the rest of mankind. Now, for Israel and for the United States to try to prolong the war or even to station troops on the ground in Iran, it's a recipe for disaster. And that will force President Trump to escalate again and again and again until there will be rebellion inside the United States, and until Israel will be fully exposed without any cover of any anti-missile system left. And that will change the whole dynamics in the Middle East. And I think the longer the war prolongs, the more exposure President Trump will expose in the so-called leadership role of the United States. The Western countries are already rebellion against the United States. And what will happen to NATO afterwards,
Chinese should stop
after this war is over,
as well.
no one knows. So we should prepare for a complete change.
What did you say about China underwriting the war?
In the Middle East.
Arnab, I want to tell Mr. Gao that, the Chinese should stop underwriting this war. The fact that you have been providing intelligence coordinates in the Middle East to the Iranian IRGC, your drones are being used by the Iranian, IRGC. So the Chinese should stop this game of underwriting this war. If you do that, I'm sure there will be lasting peace in the Middle East.
China will always support justice, and China will always oppose war of aggression and violation of international law.
Attacking innocent people in the Middle East.
Don't talk about China supporting
a regime which has killed so many civilians. I don't
and the war of aggression. Period.
Once again, you come on. Whenever you know that you have been underwriting this war, you may be trying to pretend to play a broker by saying and making those statements. You did that when India and Pakistan's war was happening. You did that. You underwrote that war as well by supporting Pakistan.
China underwrites peace.
Behind the scenes in the Iran war.
Don't get me wrong.
And there is empirical evidence to that.
China supports peace. China opposes war
only
of
on
aggression.
paper. Only on paper.
China. Can I comment?
Burzin responding to Victor. Burzin, go on.
China's foreign policy in the Middle East lies in tatters, given the so-called rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran. What of it today? Nothing came of it, and some of us back in 2023 never believed it in the first place. So please do not tell us about China not being part of this. China has exported ammonium perchlorate, which is the component integral to the solid propellant fueled rockets which are being hurtled into the GCC states. So please do not tell me that China is not involved again. China is providing real-time intelligence data alongside Putin's intelligence on US assets across the region, its 13 bases and installations across the Gulf to the countries. Sino-Saudi trade, Victor, stands at $105.4 billion as of 2024. And mark my words, once the dust settles on this war, the Arabs are not going to forget what double game China has played on this aspect. So yes, the Arabs are very much tied in with supply chains to the Chinese and with trade, but do not for a moment think that they do not know where they lie, where their interests lie. And if you think the Chinese, the Gulf states after this war are going to gravitate due to strategic autonomy towards either say Putin, that's cloud cuckoo thinking. They will still bank on the West and on the US.
What is wrong with that?
Listen to me. When China is involved, Saudi Arabia...
One minute. Hamid Sai is coming in. Hamid Sai responding. Hamid Sai is responding to Burzin. Hamid Sai.
Who is doing the right thing?
Hamid Raza.
Who is doing the wrong thing?
Sure.
Go on. Hamid Raza, you were responding to Burzin there.
Let's assume that China is helping Iran. What is wrong with that?
What is wrong with China helping Iran?
According to international law, defend itself against foreign intervention. So how about the Arab countries who are helping Americans and Israelis to attack Iran? They are helping with them, with intelligence, with land, with equipment, with anything. They are helping the Americans and Israelis carrying out an illegal war against the sovereign state. And you are concerned about the civilians in the Middle East? One, they have killed on the first day 200 school children.
How many Iranian civilians have died? How many Iranians have died because of Chinese intelligence supplied during the Green Movement of 2009? Deep packet information surveillance technology that was provided by China
most of the countries
to
are
Ahmadinejad's regime.
So what is wrong with
Hamid Raza.
What is wrong with Chinese helping Iran? Give me international law. What is wrong with
happening? That? Iranians die. the Green Movement of 2009, Arnab.
Hamid Raza is asking you, show me international law to prove that there is anything illegal in China helping Iran in the way America helps Israel.
What happened when Iranians died in 2009 in the riots after the stolen vote election of Green Movement? Beijing has supplied Iranian intelligence with surveillance technology.
What happened in Ukraine?
What happened in Ukraine, says GD Bakshi. GD Bakshi is
provided weapons to Ukraine targeting data to hit Moscow. That is perfectly fine. What happened in Ukraine?
About Iran, not Ukraine.
The Americans provided intelligence satellite. Sir, we are talking of parallels. You know, I'm sorry, I refuse to accept the dictum that when America attacks every country, the rest of us are supposed to join like cheerleaders and start demonizing that country and attacking it and ostracizing it. What the hell do you mean? This is not an imperial order. Every country is free to make its own decisions. China is totally free to help Iran. And by the way, India is the head of the BRICS.
As a retired army general from the world's largest democracy, you should be ashamed of yourself when a country kills 40,000 of its own citizens in cold blood, and you cannot condemn that. That is what Iran is doing.
You cut that crap, all right? You cut that crap. Cut that crap. The Americans have killed 168 little girls. Don't give me that moralistic crap. You haven't even uttered a word of contrition. You've killed little girls, man. You are the ones who should be ashamed of yourself. 168 girls, hell of a military achievement.
That's true, Bursin. You said that it was something else, but the Americans admitted that it was their Tomahawk. But I remember you saying that it was friendly fire or something between the Iranians, which it was not.
Yes, and it has turned out to be a Tomahawk missile. But America admits it. China and others don't admit it because you hold democracies to a higher standard.
Admits one word of contrition? One word that you are sorry about the girls? Are the girls terrorists?
I'm talking about
what the hell do you mean, man? Don't give us that moral hypocrisy.
Nobody's talking about moral hypocrisy during a war.
We are talking of Iranian girls being murdered by the Americans.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm calling a close to this part of the debate tonight. It's a hot debate. It's a hot debate. All I'll tell you tonight, when I come back, I'm going to turn away from...